All right, Dragon Ball Super players. We have here sponsored player, G Sports and Entertainment, Dae Han Hardesty, coming from the Orlando Regional, hosted by PPG, with a deck profile with probably the only leader in the field of over 300 players. And what spiciness did we have here, Dae Han?
We brought the Gotenks Leader from the first draft box.
And what was your record at the Orlando Regional?
I ended the day 6-3. Came in 35th place overall, and overall I was pretty good for just bringing this out.
Over here at G Sports Entertainment, we're about innovation, trying to bring different types of decks to the meta. And Dae Han did just that at the PPG Orlando Regional. All right, DBS players, we got the deck profile coming up right now.
All right. Obviously, leader is Gotenks. When you swing at your opponent's leader, they just discard a card, and same thing on the back side. Most important thing about this leader for when you're awakened is if you're at lower cards hand than your opponent, you can stack your triggers since both are pending. So when you swing, you can make your opponent discard, then you draw. So that way they go down one and you go up one, and that should put you either above or at parity to their hand size nearly at all times. Alright, now the entire deck is based around playing at a low hand size, but we'll just go in order. So obviously every deck needs to have their form of Champa. Technically this one is better because you can choose up to one target creature to have a double strike and it's a searchable target, but I don't play the searchers. But overall it's a Champa that you can have foil for now. Alright, now my main aggression with the deck is Gohans. So these are all the different kinds of Gohans I play, and all of them share a similar thing, that they all play around low hand size. Now with this deck, I never really got more than 6 cards in hand at a time. The entire time I was always under my opponent's hand size. So whenever I played the Gohans, such as Miraculous Ultimate Comeback, which was a 2 red mana, almost all the time, I got to play Videls for free, which got to keep my hand size lower. Or when on turn 3 I played the burst attacks, and then I would go from 6 to 5 and then play Videl for 4 and then swing and trigger and then draw 2 right away while holding a blocker up to defend the Gohan while crit pressure. This one was just kind of free. Sometimes my opponents would just play with their hand size naturally lower than mine, so I'd play these and I would awaken and I would draw more cards than they would, due to them just basically trying to play around Cell as if I had one. So those are those. Most important card in the deck, honestly though, was the burst attack Gohans. They drew me the most amount of cards, kept up the most amount of pressure, and critical is always good when you're also oppressing your opponent's hand size at the same time. So these were key. Now standard issue, red mana, and also just free blocker. I got to, if my opponent played like a 1-drop Cronoa or a Majin Buu just to draw cards a cycle, you get to punish them by playing a free attacker / blocker, and also it minus my hand size for free and little to no effort. And if I didn't need it, it was just red mana. Up next, we have our equivalent of Free Han in green that they gave us in Tournament of Power, since before then it was just the TN. This allowed me to defend my Trunks, my Gohans, anything like that while building a board pressure and keeping my hand size smaller at the same time. So that's all it is. At the end of the combo, it just goes into the play. Up next, pretty standard, it's just green super combo, nothing special. Alright, now the other big thing that the deck was a big chain Zeno deck. Since the deck was designed to play around on a lower hand size, putting you and your opponent at 5 was really worth it. And also it was my only form of like answer anything that was on board, since I played 0 removal. Usually you would swing with Zeno, your opponent would either 1 discard a card so they wouldn't take a damage, or they would take a damage and then they would go up to 6 cards in hand. So when you swing with leader, it would you would make them discard, then you would draw, so they would go back down to 5 and you go up to 6 at the same time. Alright, it's kind of strange for an aggro deck to play negates, but my theory behind this was, one, it was another form of blue energy for me to charge, and also it was another thing for me to protect my burst attack Gohans with, or my Trunks and such, while also negging my hand size and stopping my opponent from progressing their advancement on my board state. So kept my hand size smaller and protected my creatures I needed to keep up the pressure and to redraw. 4 Sensu Beans. you would use it to either help protect yourself if your opponent was going against you, say you're playing against swap, or for you just to help extend your plays. I mean, overall, it's just a good card. That's why it's an $8 common. All right. And 4 1-drop trunks. Most of the times if my opponents was keeping their hand size smaller, I would just keep critting them out. Wouldn't even really focus on the attacking with like the other Gohans and such. It would just be him and the burst stack Gohans. And that's just the evolved target for the chain attack, to where you can get out for 2 mana on them early. Alright, my overall target, or my overall in general, was Dark Temptation Toa. Most case, it always just makes them discard 1, and it's a cheap overwhelm, so I was able to get off quickly. And if my opponent awakened early, it allowed my leader to be at 15k, so then when I was swinging them, I would make them discard a card, and then they would have to discard unless they wanted to take another damage, because we were on par. And also it's just more pressure on their guys or their life total, while also whittling away at their hand. And it's really good after you do a Chain Zeno, because then they're 4 and 4, and they have less resources to guard with, and which makes your leader attack even better if they take 1 hit. And for final, we played 2 Dark Duo Deborah. You can play Foreseeing Hit if you want instead, since this one's random and they would get their cards back whenever he leaves. But the other thing is, in certain situations where it came up 1 time, I was able to rip away a couple of negates and extra cards out of their hands at random, and that was really important due to like a Sensu Beam being gone. I was able to keep up the pressure and they kept them discarding. The other thing about playing Deborah over Hit is, if you do a Chain Zeno while Deborah's on the board, they don't get their cards back. Zeno blanks his effects to return their cards, so those cards that he sends to warp are gone forever. All right, that's it for the main deck, and we'll go to what I made for the sideboard. Start off, got 3 Cronoa. Pretty basic. Just if you didn't feel like the negates or the Videls were necessary, and you just wanted like a free body for a draw, or you just wanted to stop Shugeshes, you just bring her in. Pretty flexible card overall. Next, 2- Killie Zones. We wanted to stop Cold Bloodlusts, mainly was the thought for this, in case we did run to any of them, and you'll see why we really wanted to stop Cold Bloodlust in a second. Alright, now this is the thing that everybody loved the most when they were watching the game on the stream, my hit package. So anytime I feel like I needed to be more aggressive in the game, I would board in 4 and 4, not necessarily 2 of the lightning fast, but it would just be 2. I would be able to thin out my deck, pull out more aggression since he gives him crit, which kept up the aggression on my opponent, which made them discard more cards constantly. And since I'm a low hand size deck, I'm built around to fight around it better than they are, so I kept the game more in my favor. Now, if your opponent's like being able to actually stall you out and you're noticing it, and keep your pressure off, I would board this in, because I would sometimes get to 6 mana. And one game I was playing against the Soul Striker, he put himself to 1, hiding behind a Vegito, thinking he was safe with like 7 cards in hand, right? You know how most people do. I was able to go to 6 mana. I overwhelmed the Dimension Support Trunks out, pulled out my hit out of the deck, and I was able to evolve Lightning Fast in the same turn, ending the game on the spot. So overall, the deck was it was really consistent at what it was doing. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a really fun deck to play. Kind of nerve-wracking to play on when very little to no cards in hand at the entire game. But it's a really great feeling when your opponent was also trying to do the same, but your deck's built around it.
Great job this weekend at the Orlando Regional, playing the only Gotenks Leader in the field of over 300 players with decks, all the meta decks out there. You did a great job this weekend, Dae Han. Any shout-outs you want to give?
Shout out to my sponsor, G Sports Entertainment, for sending me out there and just being an awesome inspiration to us all.
All right, buddy. Look for Dae Han at the Nats DBS tournament coming November 17th weekend in Columbus, Ohio.